Hey guys, today I'm going to be reviewing the new CeraVe Invisible Mineral SPF 50 sunscreen. You know, mineral sunscreens, they can be tricky. A lot of them are thick, they're difficult to spread on the skin, they take a lot of time to blend in. Honestly, it makes them hard in many cases to use consistently. Anytime a mineral sunscreen claims to be invisible, I am very skeptical, as they often end up leaving a chalky white residue. Even if the white residue is not so heavy, it still can leave at least my skin looking kind of gray. And if you have a richly melanated skin type, almost leave the skin looking lavender. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through a closer look of the ingredients in this formulation, the actual sunscreen ingredients, as well as the supporting players. I'm going to show you what it looks like on my skin. I'm going to talk about how it performs and my thoughts on if it is a good one to consider or if it's one to just skip and move on. Now, let's talk a little bit about the active sunscreen ingredients. So this is a mineral sunscreen. It has zinc and titanium dioxide as the active sunscreen ingredients. Now, those are inorganic sunscreen ingredients. What does that mean? That means they are ingredients that are sheets of metal oxides. This is in contrast to chemical sunscreens, which are organic carbon compounds. Here's the thing, mineral sunscreens and chemical sunscreens mostly work the same. They absorb ultraviolet radiation and dissipate that energy as heat. Yes, it's true that mineral sunscreens block some UV, but honestly, that's not the main way in which these ingredients actually work. They actually work exactly like chemical sunscreen ingredients. Sheets of metal oxides versus carbon compounds, white cast in the mineral ones versus no white cast with the all chemical ones. This is an important point to emphasize because mineral sunscreens and chemical sunscreens, one's not inherently better than the other. The best one is going to be the one that you actually choose to use. Some people tend to find that mineral sunscreens are a lot more comfortable for them if they have very sensitive skin, whereas chemical sunscreens burn and sting. But as I pointed out, the chemical sunscreens are much less likely to leave a white cast. The most important features of a sunscreen are that you like it enough to use it, that it's broad spectrum, that you apply enough of it, and that you apply it regularly and consistently, not just intermittently when you remember or feel like it, so that you are protecting your skin effectively. I like that this is SPF 50, a little on the higher end. That's especially important because in order to actually achieve that SPF 50, you need to apply this in a pretty thick layer. In all reality, most people, they apply a very thin layer of sunscreen, so they end up with a lower final SPF because the SPF that you get really can be heavily influenced by how thick of a layer you put on. So if you go with a higher SPF and tend to apply a little thinner, then you're more likely to get something in the ballpark of SPF. Let's talk about some of the non-sunscreen ingredients, the supporting players, as I like to say. Well, it's CeraVe, their namesake ceramide vehicle. And so of course, this product, like everything from them, has ceramides, which are lipids naturally found in skin's outermost layer. And there's some evidence that applying these in a moisturizer can help your skin get back on track as far as producing its own ceramides and barrier components and restoring the skin barrier. That's especially important to factor in as well when it comes to sunscreen, especially if you're going to be outdoors for a prolonged period of time, because ultraviolet radiation not only sets the stage for premature skin aging and for skin cancer, but it also damages the components of the skin barrier. And so having that on there to kind of offset that, and along with the protection, it's really a great pairing. This contains niacinamide, which is an ingredient that is a B vitamin, but it's anti-inflammatory, it's an antioxidant. It too can help with your skin barrier integrity, and it also can help with pigmentation, overall skin tone, skin redness, and may offset skin glycation related to UV and environmental aggressor exposure, which ultimately leads to sallowness, aka skin yellowing. I want to point out though, not everyone tolerates niacinamide. Some people find it to be irritating, especially in higher percentages above 5% or with frequent stacking of different products that have niacinamide. So just something to keep in mind if you have encountered that before. You might want to choose something else. Now let's talk about the application and the texture, because for a mineral sunscreen, I have to say this spreads on the skin pretty nicely. It doesn't require too much tugging, pulling effort. I mean, it's not as foolproof as like a Korean chemical sunscreen where it just feels like you're putting a lightweight cream on your face. But I did not experience any pilling with this, which I really appreciate because I hate sunscreens that pill. And if I encounter that, more often than not, I am encountering it with a mineral sunscreen. Those little balls that roll up. Yeah, balls of sunscreen rolling up off the surface of the skin equal inadequate it UV protection is like actively peeling off of your skin. And it's very frustrating. It's hard to correct once it starts happening. And it's a mess too if you have a lot of it going on. Trust me, I've been there. It's like the worst dandruff you could imagine all over your shirt, these little white flecks and balls, but it's just sunscreen, not actually seborrheic dermatitis, but nonetheless a nuisance and can really, be a problem. So that doesn't happen, at least for me, with this product, including layering it over some more hydrating toners, essences, and lightweight serums in my morning routine. And I didn't experience any issues putting makeup on over this. So great base for makeup as well, I will say. Speaking of base, let's talk a little bit about the finish on this, because one thing I know about you guys, you do not want shine. You don't want shine. You don't want dewy. You don't want moist. You don't want to look wet. I get it. All right. I get it. And that can be challenging with sunscreens, especially those that are water resistant. I would say this is semi-matte. Okay. To me, matte is very, very drying, like a powdery finish. This doesn't give a powdery finish. And it's interesting because the cast on this for SPF 50 mineral sunscreen, this is pretty impressive. Now, I will point out this formula, it's a mineral sunscreen, but if you read the inactive ingredients very carefully, there is an ingredient on there that is kind of an SPF doping agent, if you will, or a booster as they're called. Shout out to Lab Muffin Beauty Science. She has a great video breaking down what these are exactly. And basically they are, organic carbon compounds that absorb UV and dissipate that energy as heat. Oh, you mean chemical sunscreen ingredients? Yeah. The main difference is that they're not FDA approved active sunscreen ingredients. So it's kind of a way that brands can get a higher SPF on a formula while making it cosmetically elegant, namely for the mineral ones. It's very challenging to truly formulate a low to no white cast mineral sunscreen. I won't guarantee that if you have richly melanated skin, there won't be something showing up, but it's gonna be better than many mineral sunscreens. It's pretty good. And did I mention, I believe I did mention, it works really well as a makeup base as well. Yeah, love the finish on this, you guys. I mean, mineral sunscreens, I would say for me are usually 4 out of 10 I try. I'm like, yes, I like this enough to use it on the regular. Who is this sunscreen good for? This is a great option for those of you who prefer the zinc oxide, titanium dioxide predominant sunscreens. You don't get along with the all chemical sunscreens. For example, maybe you hate avobenzone, you find that irritates your skin, or you have an existing allergy to it. This would be a great one to choose. A lot of you aren't necessarily allergic to those ingredients, but you find that they cause some burning, stinging, and discomfort when you apply them, and you need to be, using mineral. Try this one out. I think you'll be pretty happy with it. I certainly have been. It's comfortable to wear. Now, if you're sensitive to niacinamide, this is not going to be great for you. In which case, if you're looking for a mineral, niacinamide-free sunscreen, I would suggest the EltaMD UV Restore SPF 40. Comes in either a non-tinted or a formula with a green tint to offer color correction for redness, which is really great because a lot of people who struggle with redness, maybe rosacea, they find that a lot of sunscreens that are marketed to them have niacinamide because it's good for redness, but maybe that's the ingredient that aggravates your rosacea. Check out that EltaMD one. It is a really great option, and the cast on that is wonderful. It was one of my 2025s, like, wow, really I liked it. Let's talk about the price point, because 2026 is the year of the price hiked. Everything is a lot more expensive. The price on the Invisible Mineral Sunscreen is $15.99, which works out to $9.87 per ounce. That's not too bad. That's the standard going rate. If you go back last week and the week before, I reviewed other sunscreens on my channel from common drugstore brands. This is the price point. One of them was a lot more expensive, actually, more than twice. I want to say twice this that I reviewed recently, a drugstore sunscreen. So the drugstore facial sunscreens, they're, this seems to be the going price point these days. Now, some other brands that I'll need to look into more that have new sunscreens, not that I need to look into the brands more because I've done lots of reviews on their sunscreens, but some new sunscreens, let me backtrack that. Some new sunscreens I've noticed in the drugstore from brands that typically are a little cheaper price point wise, like Coppertone, Banana Boat. I'll need to try those out and share with you guys how those perform because those typically are a little more affordable. Nonetheless, I think this is pretty average price point wise. Do with that as you will. If that still seems really, I think it's steep, honestly. I wish all sunscreens could be $7.50 at most because I recognize that they have to pay for the SPF testing, pay for the water resistance testing. It gets pricey on their end. It has to end up either making the brand money or it's gone. So I get it, but I really wish the price points would come to $7.50 for facial sunscreens at least. All right, minimal cast. Final thoughts overall, I really like this for an all mineral formula. Definitely would buy it again. Plan to finish this one up. CeraVe did an amazing job. I prefer this actually to their tinted mineral sunscreen, which I also love. Okay, that's a great one, but I actually prefer this one. I prefer this one. It's just as far as the way it feels, the finish. I like this one a little better personally, and I think you guys are gonna like it too, especially if you like mineral sunscreens. So let me know in the comments, was this one on your radar? I know it was for some of you because I saw your comments. I already saw your comments from my last sunscreen video saying, oh, please review and I was like, yes, I've already been trying it out. So can't wait to film the video and get it up for you guys. So thank you all so much for your encouragement in the comments and for always engaging in my videos. I really hope this helps you guys out in choosing a sunscreen to protect your skin, a large organ that has a lot of work to do while you're on this planet. Okay, so take care of it, and sunscreen is an evidence-based way to do that. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.